Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Metzler, one of the programmers here as part of SF DocFest. We're celebrating 20 years. I can't believe the festival's been around that so long, but it's always exciting to bring lots of great independent documentaries from around the world to share with you all in the Bay Area. Today, you had a chance to see a really great film, Miss Alma Thomas, A Life in Color, and we're lucky enough to have the director here, Sherry Galkey. Thanks for being here with us, Sherry.
Thanks for having me.
So maybe a good place to start is, how did you discover Miss Alma's story and then decide to go down the rabbit hole of making a documentary?
Sure. Yeah, I was just looking up in my email history. I received in August of 2020 an email from John Gann, who's an independent producer, and John was aware of my previous film, Gloria's Call, which was about women in surrealism. And he liked that film, and he had suggested it to a number of film festivals. And he said, I'm working on this new project, and I think you'd be a really good fit to direct it. So, and here's a link to the Wikipedia page about the artist. So I had never heard of her, and I went to the link, and I immediately fell in love. I mean, it was just like goosebumps, I just related so much to her and her story. And I thought, I would love to be involved in directing this film. My one hesitation, though, is as a Black woman artist, I thought, shouldn't a Black artist, filmmaker direct this film? And, I raised that question, and they were like, we think you're the one to tell her story. And so I was very honored, and said, well, the thing that I will do, that I will feel most comfortable with, is making sure that we bring in as many Black voices as we can in terms of scholars, cinematographers, composers, etc. So that's what I did.
Nice. So, as you kind of decided to figure out ways to kind of weave this story, how did like her life and her kind of creative technique kind of affect the kind of aesthetic that you chose in telling the story, and as you did it, what did you want to kind of keep in mind of like how to kind of keep her personality alive?
Well, she was quite a character. She lived from 1891. She was born in 1891 in Georgia, in the South, at a time when there were lynchings, and it was, not that it's not always a scary time to be Black in America, but a very scary time. And also a time when she was not really allowed to go to school beyond elementary school. And her family moved to Washington, D.C. She lived there until she died in 1978. And, she was a single woman her whole life, completely committed to her teaching and her art. And I'm not answering your question about how this all added up, but it was, there were a lot of firsts in her life. The first, fine arts graduate of Howard University, the first woman to have her work hung in the White House, et cetera. So it was a very long story that spanned a very long history and a lot of changes in history. I mean, think about it. I mean, she lived through multiple world wars. It's just kind of mind blowing to think about it. And so it was, and yet we were committed to making a 20-minute or less film. This is a film that's accompanying a retrospective of her work that's traveling to 4 museums. So it was quite a challenge to think, how do I tell this story richly, but reduce it to its essence? And I wanted to, I wanted to tell her history. I wanted to talk about her struggles. I wanted to talk about her breakthroughs, because she really discovered a whole new aesthetic that no one has done before or since. And I wanted to bring the audience into understanding, and I realize this is starting to be a bit of a theme in my work, is kind of opening up the world of art to non-art audiences. I mean, I think, that's always the challenge when you're doing a work like this. How do you keep the people who are scholars, who know a bit about the history, interested, but also make it accessible to a general audience? So I wanted to give them insights into her process and her life, and how something like, severe arthritis and crippling pain can actually maybe lead to a breakthrough. So there's all kinds of just inspirations and lessons from her life and her story. And it was a challenge to kind of fit it all in.
No, I think you did a beautiful job. I mean, I guess I wonder, yeah, as you begin to kind of share this film around with people, like, what would you think that she would want other people to kind of take away from her life, or even their own kind of, kind of pursuits or embracing creativity? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Alma Thomas was somebody who always focused on the positive. She really she saw the good in people. She definitely experienced racism. She experienced all kinds of prejudice as a woman, as an artist who began being public with her art later in her life, as a Black person. But she was in pursuit of beauty, and it in this very profound and deep way. I mean, she just was really committed to beauty, and beauty to her meant more than physical beauty. And one of the things that I couldn't even go into in great depth in the film was her commitment to service, and how she taught young people for 31 years and started doing her work full time when she retired. She started really breaking through as an artist when she was in her I think 65 or so,
Wow.
70. She had a retrospective when she was like 80. Um, but throughout her life, even when she retired from teaching, she continued to work with children in her community in Washington, D.C. And even when other families began to move out of that area and it became a more depressed area, she was very committed to that neighborhood and staying there. So, um, yeah, I've forgotten what the question was, but
What do you think, like, when people walk away from the theater, like, what do you think that she would want people to kind of keep in mind, or you yourself as a filmmaker, do you think?
I guess, I mean, somebody says it in the film, but to just never give up, to always see that there's opportunity, there's a chance to make life better for yourself and others, to bring beauty and inspiration. Um, and to kind of be inventive, to always think outside the box and how to, yeah, because that's what she did. I mean, she really, like I said, she really invented this sort of whole new aesthetic. And I'm just so pleased now, and thankful to the Obamas who really brought her to, back to us. I mean, she was sort of lost for a while and people didn't really know much about her, but she was the first African American woman artist to have her work hung in the White House by Michelle Obama, and then later acquired for the permanent collection at the White House. And so I think, when you think about abstract expressionism and those sorts of movements, you think of like Jackson Pollock, or you think of, abstraction in terms of nature, you think of Georgia O'Keeffe. And I think Alma Thomas should be one of the names on the tip of all of our tongues, because she was a true great American painter who contributed to the history of art. And we should all feel that she's part of our history.
Very cool. Definitely an inspiring story. Thanks again, Sherry, for being part of SF Doc Fest and making such a beautiful film.
Thank you so much. I'm pleased.